Russian forces relentlessly fighting for control of the Ukrainian port city of Mariupol have armed a school that was sheltering hundreds of people. Victims remained under the rubble at the school, which Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has branded an act of terror. It comes as Russian troops captured by Ukrainian forces urged their people to rise up against President Vladimir Putin, telling the world of fellow soldiers being thrown in mass graves. Alexei Zelezniak, Mustafayev Mugsad, Igor Rudenko, Alexander Fomenko, and others wept as they told a press conference of their opposition to the Russian invasion, British media reported. They said they had been sent to their s and used as cannon fodder. "If you have the honor remaining, do not repeat my mistakes," Mr. Rudenko said. "Take the troops away because Putin does not need us. He does not even take the corpses. They are thrown into mass graves. It's hard to see." Camera icon: a Russian soldier weeps. Supplied. Mr. Zelensky has appealed to Israel for help in pushing back the Russian assault on his country. In the latest in a series of appeals he has made for help from abroad, Mr. Zelensky, who is Jewish, addressed the Israeli parliament by video link and questioned Israel's reluctance to sell its Iron Dome missile defense system to Ukraine. "Everybody knows that your missile defense systems are the best, and that you can definitely help our people save the lives of Ukrainians, of Ukrainian Jews," he said. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett has held numerous calls with Mr. Zelensky and Mr. Putin to end the conflict. Mariupol has suffered some of the heaviest bombardment since Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24. Many of its 400,000 residents remain trapped in the city with little if any food, water and power. Camera icon: a girl sits in the improvised shelter in Mariupol. Evgeny Maloletka, AP. Capturing Mariupol would help Russian forces secure a land corridor to the Crimea Peninsula that Moscow annexed from Ukraine in 2014. Russia has called on Ukrainian forces to lay down their arms in Mariupol, where Moscow said a terrible humanitarian catastrophe was unfolding. "Lay down your arms," Kolgen, Mikhail Mizintsev, the director of the Russian National Center for Defense Management, said in a briefing distributed by the Defense Ministry. "A terrible humanitarian catastrophe has developed. All who lay down their arms are guaranteed safe passage out of Mariupol." Kolgen, Mizintsev said humanitarian corridors would be opened out of Mariupol on Monday. The city council said on its Telegram channel late on Saturday that several thousand residents had been deported to Russia over the past week. Russian news agencies said buses had carried hundreds of people. Moscow calls refugees from Mariupol to Russia in recent days. Camera icon: rescuers were combing the rubble for survivors at the site of a ED theater in Mariupol. AP. The number of casualties at the school ED by Russian forces is not yet known, but Russia has denied targeting civilians. Mr. Zelensky has said the siege of Mariupol was a war crime. "To do this to a peaceful city is a terror that will be remembered for centuries to come," he said. Mr. Putin said that Russia's special operation was aimed at disarming Ukraine and rooting out dangerous nationalists. Western nations have called it an aggressive war of choice and have imposed punishing sanctions aimed at crippling Russia's economy. Ukraine and its Western backers say Russian ground forces have made few advances in the past week, concentrating instead on artillery and missile strikes. The United Nations Refugee Agency said 10 million people had been displaced across Ukraine, including 3.4 million who have fled to neighboring countries such as Poland. Officials in the region said they were reaching capacity to comfortably house refugees. The UN Human Rights Office said at least 902 Ukrainian civilians had been of Sunday, though it believed the real toll was probably much higher. Ukrainian prosecutors said 112 children had been. Camera icon: Ukraine's leader says the siege of Mariupol is a terror that will be remembered for centuries. AP. In the southern city of Kherson, a video clip obtained by showed dozens of protesters, some wrapped in Ukraine's blue and yellow national flag, chanting "Go home" in Russian at two military vehicles bearing Russian markings. The vehicles turned and left the area. Kiev and Moscow reported some progress last week toward a political formula that would guarantee Ukraine's security, while keeping it outside NATO, a key Russian demand, though each side accused the other of dragging things out. Russian forces have also taken heavy losses, and long columns of troops that bore down on the capital Kiev have been halted in the suburbs. Ukraine's military said on Moscow's combat losses included 14,700 personnel and 476 tanks. Russia last acknowledged on March 2 that nearly 500 of its soldiers had been